let me tell you how I find myself here today. My pursuit is a personal one. It is not an academic one, nor has it ever been a commercial one. My pursuit began a few years ago when I lost my passion for what I was doing. I ran my own small business, and after a few years of doing that, my passion went away. I can't explain it. I can't put it any other way. I didn't enjoy getting out of bed anymore. People gave me silly advice, like do what you love. I was doing the same thing. I didn't love it anymore. Follow your passion. Yet we all know that, but how do you do that? These are not helpful. And so I entered what can best be described as a depression, where being the leader of an organization where people relied on me for direction and intent and salaries and everything else, I doubted my capacity for leadership. And the biggest mistake I made that I learned the hard way is, as a leader, I did not have to know all the answers, and if I didn't have to pretend that I did. That was the biggest mistake that I made. I always thought I had to know all the answers, and I thought that if I didn't, I had to pretend that I did. And the more that I pretended that I had all the answers, or the harder getting out of bed every morning became, to the point where I became depressed. And it was a discovery that I made that every single organization on the planet, even our own careers, always functions on the same three levels: what we do, how we do it, why we do it. Those three must be in balance. We all know what we do. That's the job we perform, the actions we take, our MOS, whatever the functional things you do. What do you do? I'm a student. What do you do? I'm a teacher. Whatever it is, right? Some of us know how we do what we do. These are the things that we think make us different or special or stand out from the crowd. The reason we think we deserve the job or the promotion or the recognition. What makes us better than everyone else, right? What's your unique ability? But very few of us can clearly articulate why we do what we do. And by why, I don't mean to make money. I don't mean to protect the nation. Those are results. If you do your job well, the nation will be protected. They're not the reason that we get out of bed in the morning. Philosophically, they may be, but nobody jumps out of the bed in the morning going, another day to protect the country. It's just not happening. And so realizing that I didn't know my why, I became obsessed with it. And I figured out how to find my why, and more importantly, I figured out how to help others find theirs. And not surprisingly, as we do when we discover something beautiful, we share it with the people we love. You see a great movie, you tell your friends, go see the great movie. We do that all the time. And so, having restored my passion to levels that I had never experienced before, the first thing I did was tell all my friends. I told my friends about this thing called the why. They had to learn their why. And my friends started making crazy life changes. Changing jobs, changing careers, feeling the effects that I had felt. Their passion restored to levels they too had never experienced prior. They invited me to their homes to share it with their friends. I would literally show up in someone's apartment and tell their friends about this thing that I had discovered called the why. That's how it began. And people just kept inviting me, and I just kept saying yes. And somebody said, you should write a book about it. I said, okay. Somebody introduced me to the God in business publishing, a man by the name of Adrian Zackheim. He's the original publisher from Good to Great, publishes all of Seth Godin's books. And so the folklore goes, I had a 29-minute meeting with him, and 3 days later I had a book deal. So I don't know what it takes to get a book deal because I didn't follow the process. And he sat in a room with an unknown guy. I was total unknown. The only thing I had was my sense of purpose and my idealism. That's all I had. And I sat in his office for 29 minutes and told him what I believed. Not what I did, not what made me qualified, but what I believed and the world that I imagined. And he was inspired enough to take a risk on me, which I'm immensely grateful for. And the more I became a student of this thing called the why, the more it worked, and the more others were interested. And I started to attract people who believe what I believe, who wanted to build the world that I imagine. I imagine a world in which the vast majority of us wake up every single day, inspired to go to work, and return home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that we do. That doesn't mean that you have to like every day. We don't like our children every day, but we love them every day, right? You don't have to like your job every day. You do get to love it every day. And those who believed what I believed, as predicted by this magical little formula called the Golden Circle, raised their hand and said, how can we help build this world? And we became compatriots in this noble pursuit. But another problem emerged. Sometimes it's so attractive, and sometimes it's so inspiring, that so many people show up and you don't know who shows up selflessly and who's showing up selfishly. And I had a few experiences in my own life that caught me by surprise because I kept meeting people who said all the right things. They said they believed what I believed. They said they wanted to do what I believed and then help me. And when push came to shove, when problems emerged, they disappeared. I'd exposed myself, made myself vulnerable, shared all of everything I knew, all the people I knew, because I believed it was the noble pursuit they were joining me in, only to find out they wanted to take, not to give. And so now I didn't know who to trust. And the question is, what happens when somebody violates your trust? Do you completely pull back? Do you put the walls up so high that you don't let anyone in? Simultaneously, I'd been given many invitations to visit with various branches of the military, and spent a lot of time with the Air Force, spent some time with the Marines, and kept meeting people who believed in sacrifice, who believed in service. I'd met people who'd risked their lives for others. And I couldn't understand how all of these people that I was meeting in the military were so different than the people that I interacted with in private sector. In the military, you give medals to people who are willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. In business, they give bonuses to people who are willing to sacrifice others so we may gain. It's backwards. And so the best assessment I could make is they're just better people. They're just better human beings, and because they're better human beings, they're attracted to this concept of military service, and that's why you find a disproportionately high number of these better people in these organizations. That was my assessment. But I was wrong. Because I'm not satisfied with that answer. And so I set out to understand, why are they better? What is in their genetic code that makes these people better? Like, what breakfast are their parents eating that would produce these children? And so, as is my nature, I go backwards. And I went as far back as I could go to the origins of man. Paleolithic, 50,000 years ago. And what I started to learn was that it's not the people. It's the environment. If the environment is right, the natural inclination of the human being is to serve and to sacrifice. If the environment is wrong, the natural inclination of the human being is to protect oneself, even at the expense of others. And if you look at the highest functioning branches of the military, if you look at the highest functioning organizations in the private sector, the environments in which they have created, sometimes by accident, the environments in which they created almost identically mimic the environments that existed in the Paleolithic era. In other words, we are working the way we're supposed to work. We are not the strongest animals in the world, and we are not the fastest animals in the world, but we are the most successful animals in the world. And the reason we are so successful is not just because of our advanced problem-solving brains. Sometimes that causes more problems than it's worth, right? But it's our ability to cooperate. We are naturally social, naturally cooperative animals with a natural inclination to trust and cooperate. And when we are put in the environment, the right environment, that is exactly what happens. It is not an instruction. I can't tell you to trust me. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. It doesn't work that way. You can't put two people in a room and say, I want you two to cooperate on this project. It's not an instruction. It's a feeling and a reaction. It's a result. Trust and cooperation are a result, right? So here's what I learned. In caveman times, the world was filled with danger, right? Whether it was the weather, whether it was the lack of resources and food, whether it was a saber-toothed tiger. There were all of these things out there with no conscience trying to kill you. Nothing personal. The only way in which we, frail, slow, not very strong animals, could confront and survive all of these things with a predisposition to kill us was to work together and create cultures, to live in tribes, to help each other. There's a natural and inherent benefit to group living. It means that if I trust you, I can fall asleep at night with the confidence that if danger shows, you will wake me. If I do not trust you, I can't fall asleep at night. It's exactly the same in our modern day and age. The goal is to feel safe in the environments in which we live and work, to feel like we belong. The dangers around us and outside us are a constant. They're never going to go away, and they're never going to change. The variable are the cultures in which we live and work. That is a variable, and that is in the control and it is the responsibility of leaders. the modern world, it's the same way. In the private sector, dangers may be defined as the ups and downs of the economy, the uncertainty of the stock market, an emerging technology that overnight renders your business model obsolete, your competition that may or may not be trying to kill you, but they definitely are trying to frustrate your growth and steal your customers. In combat, this is obvious. In times that are not combat, in peace times, the challenges are the same. The warring tribes that are the Pentagon, all fighting for money, all trying to outdo each other. The ups and downs of some political rhetoric, or bad decisions that are made for all the wrong reasons. All these things that frustrate our growth, frustrate our success. Nothing personal. The only way in which we survive these dangers, and more importantly, seize the opportunities that exist, is when we feel safe amongst the people with whom we live and work. If we do not feel safe with the people with whom we live and work, we are forced to invest our own time and our own energy to protect ourselves from each other, which then inherently makes the entire organization weaker and exposes us to the dangers outside. Aesop, as in Aesop's Fables, 5000 BC, said it better than I can. He talked about 4 oxen that stood tail to tail. And no matter from which angle the lion attacked, he was always met with horns. However, due to infighting and disagreements, the oxen decided to separate and graze in different parts of the field, and one by one, the lion ate them all. When we do not fear each other, we survive very well. When we have to protect ourselves from each other, we don't do very well at all. So then the question arises, how on earth do we build a circle of safety? How do we do it? How do we keep ourselves safe from each other? How do we learn to trust each other, especially if trust is a result and not something you can just do? As it turns out, the human body works exactly the same way as any organization. We have internal incentive systems that are working very, very hard to get us to repeat behaviors that are in our best interest, right? So if you think about how any incentive system works, I want you to achieve a goal. I'm going to tell you what that goal is. If you hit that goal, I will give you a bonus. Guess what you do? What I want you to do. You will achieve the goal that I set, my intent, my mission, my goal, whatever it is, and because there's certain incentives and rewards on the other side, you will do them. The human body does exactly the same thing. If you've ever had a feeling of happiness, joy, pride, status, fulfillment, love, friendship, any of these feelings are chemically produced. And all of these feelings that I will generically call happiness are born out of basically the 4 chemicals. They are endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, EDSO. Let me go through them really quickly. Endorphins. The purpose of endorphins is one thing and one thing only: to mask physical pain. That's it. That's what endorphins do. We all know what an endorphin rush is, or a runner's high. You go out there for a run, you're pushing your body harder than you've ever pushed your body before, and it feels good. And so you keep going, and you keep going. And at the end of your run, you still feel awesome. Those endorphins are still surging through your bloodstream. And about an hour later, you're now in pain for damage you caused to your muscles about an hour before, because the endorphins have now run out. Endorphins served a very practical purpose. Back in caveman days, we're neither the strongest animals nor the fastest animals. How are we going to eat? How are we going to get food? The human animal is made for endurance. We can track an animal. We can go on a search for something for hours and hours and hours and miles and miles and miles, and we will wear out any gazelle on the planet. That's what we're made for. And when we're out there and we're tired, we don't give up. We feel good and we keep pushing. And maybe if we find food and we have to carry something heavy back to the tribe, if we were tired, we would give up. Not a good system for survival. And so it feels good, and so we keep going until we get there. A good system for survival. And it feels so good, sometimes we crave that feeling. Oh my God, I had so much fun hunting yesterday. I will volunteer to go tomorrow. Good system for survival. We often hear about endorphins for survival in combat situations, but for most of us back home, with supermarkets and cars and whatnot, there's pretty much no survival need for endorphins whatsoever. Pretty much the way we get them is from heavy exercise and exerting our bodies. That's pretty much it. Dopamine. Oh, just a little side. It's because of endorphins that laughing feels good, by the way. When you laugh, you're actually convulsing your internal organs. And so to hide that pain, the body makes us feel good. We've all had the experience where you laugh so hard, you say, stop, stop, it hurts. It's because the endorphins have run out. Dopamine. Dopamine is the feeling you get when you find something you're looking for or you accomplish something you set out to accomplish, right? So you know that feeling you get when you cross something off your to-do list? How good does that feel? That's dopamine, right? When you set out to achieve one of your goals, yes, you win the race. Yes, you cross the finish line. That amazing sense of, I have won, I have found it. You know, that pair of shoes that you want desperately and you find them on sale. Yes, you go on Google and you put the thing in that you're looking for and it comes up and it feels so good because you wait for the feeling, try a new search. There it is. This is why we're genetically predisposed to collect stuff. Like, you don't need another little figurine of an elephant. Right? We like coins and stamps and cards and things because we love the feeling of finding the thing we were looking for. We're genetically predisposed for it. The reason we have dopamine is more practical than that. It's because if we only went to look for food when we were hungry and there was no guarantee that we would find food, not a good system for survival. And so Mother Nature has imbued us with this wonderful chemical so that we will go looking for food even when we don't need it. You get dopamine when you eat. It's why we enjoy eating, right? Because we get a dopamine hit when we eat. So, to try and get more of that feeling, we will repeat behavior that gets us the thing that makes us feel good, right? So, for example, you're out for a wander, and in the distance you see a little apple tree, shot of dopamine. And what dopamine does is it makes us focused on our goals, keeps us free from distraction, fixated on the goal we want to get. And so we start walking towards the apple tree because we want the dopamine. And as it gets a little bigger, we can sense that we're making progress. That's what metrics are supposed to do. They're supposed to indicate that we're making progress towards some other goal, right? It's not the metrics itself. And so we sense that we see the tree get a little bigger, we get another little shot of dopamine, and it keeps us even more focused. And it gets bigger, and another little shot of dopamine, right? Or the gazelle, we lose the gazelle, and we find him again. Shot of dopamine keeps us focused on, we're gonna get the gazelle. Right? And then you finally get the gazelle, you finally get to the apple tree, yes! Immense sense of dopamine, right? It's like when you're out doing a run. If you do a long run, you pass, they put mile markers up for a reason. Makes us feel like we're making progress. Each mile marker you pass, it makes you want to keep going. And when you can see the finish line, even though you're exhausted, you run even faster because you can feel, you want the dopamine of crossing the finish line, right? This is why we are told that our goals must be tangible. We are visual animals. We do not get dopamine without being able to see the goal or at least imagine it in our mind's eye. That's why we call them vision statements, because you have to be able to see them. Vision, right? So that's why we're told, like I said, you have to write down your goals. We are no good with amorphous goals. Doesn't work. We're no good with the abstract. We like specific things we can see. You will get a bonus if you achieve more. How much more? More. Doesn't work. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me where I need to get, and I'll do it. Dopamine. Dopamine won't fire unless we see the tree. Go find something on Google. Doesn't work that way. What do you want me to find? Tell me what you want me to look for, and then I can get that sense of accomplishment, right? That's what dopamine does. We are progress machines. A good vision must also be specific, something we can see in our mind's eye. Most vision statements are useless. To be the biggest, to be the most respected, to be the most loved, right? To serve the country. I don't even know what that looks like. Respected by whom? Your mother? There's no metric for that. Can't do it. It's useless. Martin Luther King, he had a good vision. I have a dream that one day, little black children and little white children will hold hands together on the playground. I can see that. I can imagine that. And if that's the kind of world that inspires me that I want to live in, I will fixate my target, fixate on that target, on that goal, and I will do what I need to do to get closer. And every milestone that we reach that makes us feel like we're making progress inspires us to keep working harder and harder and harder to get that goal. That's good vision. That's good vision. Dopamine comes with a warning, however. Dopamine is highly, highly, highly addictive. Here are some other things that release dopamine. Alcohol, nicotine, gambling, your cell phone, right? Think about how gambling works. We know what the tree is. It's 3 sevens. You get 3 sevens, it's very specific, you get rich. Good. Pull the handle. 2 sevens. Feel like making progress. Pull the handle again. 1 7. It's okay. Still making progress. Pull the handle. Missed it this time, but I know I'm coming close because I saw it before. I saw a glimpse of the gazelle. Pull it again. called addiction. We get sucked into it. It's tricking our system. And so we keep going and going and going. And like all addictions, we will waste money, we will waste time, and we will destroy relationships. That's what addiction does to us. They say that if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is crave a drink, you might be an alcoholic. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is check your phone even before you get out of bed, you might be an addict. If you walk from room to room in your own home holding your telephone, you might be an addict, right? Thank you. Yes, look at doing the demonstration. If you're driving your car and your phone goes bing, right? You can't wait 15 minutes to get to where you're going. You got to check it right now. Pull the handle. You might be an addict. And even when you do read it, do you want to have dinner next Thursday? And you can't wait 10 minutes to reply. You got to reply right now? Odds are very high you have an addiction. Yes, we all hate all the email we get. What we love is the bing, the buzz, the flash, and the beep. Oh, it feels so good. The reason we send so many texts and emails is because we want replies. In fact, when we don't get a reply, we become unnerved. Why haven't they replied? I want to reply. I hate all this email, right? We crave it. We become addicted to it. And for all you Gen Ys out there who like to think that you're better at multitasking because you grew up with all this technology, then why do you keep crashing your cars while you're texting? The fact of the matter is, you're not better at multitasking, you're better at being distracted. And it is probable that an entire generation has grown up with an addiction to dopamine in the form of social media. It's highly probable. And we see some examples of this. The cases of diagnosed ADHD have risen 66% in the past decade. Okay. Now, ADHD is a frontal lobe issue. Are you telling me there's something in the water that's making an entire generation grow up with a frontal lobe disorder? Probably not. There are genuine cases of all these things, of course. But the diagnoses of ADHD eerily looks like an addiction to a distraction as well. Distractibility, unable to focus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just an addiction. We can also become addicted to performance. In some organizations where metrics are king, we literally become addicted to making the numbers, getting the efficiencies, driving the numbers. We're addicted to hitting each goal, hitting each goal, hitting each goal, because the rewards we get are all dopamine. Literally, our organizations become addicted to making the numbers. And like all addiction, it comes at the expense of time, money, and relationships. And when relationships break down, we expose ourselves to danger from outside. That's why we have these two chemicals. These are selfish chemicals. You don't need anybody's help to get them. Go for a run, go through your to-do list, meet your goals, you'll get feelings of good and joy, and you're good to go, right? You can do it all by yourself. These chemicals are the selfless chemicals. You can't get them by yourself, and you need other people's help. And it's these chemicals that ensure that we trust each other, work together, love each other, and cooperate. When these chemicals are out of balance, we become addicted to performance, we become addicted to social media, we become addicted to ourselves. When they are in balance, we are committed to service and looking after each other and have the confidence that others will look after us. Let me tell you about the first chemical, serotonin. Serotonin is the leadership chemical. It is the feeling of pride. It is the feeling of status. There are many ways you can get serotonin. One way is public recognition, right? When you are pointed to and say, our tribe values you. That's all we want. We all want to feel that our tribe values us, that our work, our opinions matter. And so when we are called out and said, you're good, it feels good, right? That's why public displays of these things are important. You have a dinner and you say, I'd just like to call out a couple names. If you could please stand up. You've done really well. Judy, if you could stand up. Dave, if you could stand up. And you stand up and somebody reads your name and everybody goes like, feels awesome. That's serotonin. You feel your status rise in the community because you recognize the community values more and it inspires you to work harder for the community. That's what it's doing, right? Think about it. What do you need to graduate college? Pay your bills, accomplish enough, collect enough credits, fulfill your minimum requirements. Ta-da, you've graduated. It's just a formula, right? So technically, they could just send you an email that says, congratulations, you've graduated college. Please enclose, find the PDF of your diploma to print out. P.S. magna cum laude, nice job. Right? Wouldn't feel good, right? Accomplishment was the same. You worked hard. Wouldn't feel good. So what we have is a big ceremony. And we invite all of our friends and our teachers and all of the people who believed in us and trusted us and wanted us to do well and sacrificed for us. And we have a big public display where they recognize our accomplishment thanks to their support. And we walk up on the stage, and that young college graduate who walks up on the stage, at the exact moment she takes the diploma, she feels the serotonin coursing through her veins, she feels her status rise, she feels her confidence rise, she feels good, she feels amazing, it feels incredible, and all she wants to do is more. But here's the best part about serotonin. At the exact same moment that that graduate grabs her diploma, her parents, sitting in the audience, also get a surge of serotonin, and they feel proud watching their child graduate. What serotonin is attempting to do is reinforce the relationship between parent and child, boss and employee, coach and player, the one who was giving the care and the one who is receiving the care, the supporter and the supported, because we share the serotonin. The more proud I feel of your accomplishment, the harder I'm going to work to protect you and offer you education and discipline and opportunity so you'll continue to do that. And what do we do for the people who care about us? We work hard so as not to let them down because we want to make them proud. We want to prove to them that their sacrifice was worth it. When we get an award, who's the first person we thank? Watch the Oscars. Who's the first person they thank? They thank God, they thank their parents, or they thank the director. They thank whomever they believe was looking over them and giving them protection and offering them support so that they had the strength to accomplish this remarkable thing. I could not have done it alone is the first thing they say. And if we give an award to the coach says, I couldn't have done it without this amazing team. And they go, we love you, we love you. Serotonin is trying desperately to get us to look after each other and make each other proud and feel proud, so we'll push each other harder and look after each other. I call it the leadership chemical because it is that feeling of pride and status. And the reason it's the leadership chemical is, again, very practical. Why do we have leaders? It's all fine and good that we teach leadership, but why do we have leaders? Let's do away with them. Who needs them? We're all equal. How's that? Let's try that. Doesn't work. For very practical reasons. Back in those Paleolithic days, we lived in populations of about 100 to 150 people. We maxed out about 150, right? Very practical problem exists. We're all hungry. Somebody brings back a carcass, dumps it on the ground. We all rush in to eat. If you're lucky enough to be built like a linebacker, you will shove your way to the front of the line. If you're the artist of the family, you will get an elbow in the face. Not a good system, because the odds are very high that when linebacker is sleeping, the guy who got an elbow in the face is not going to wake him and alert him to danger. Bad system, not good for the tribe. And so we evolved into hierarchical animals. We are naturally hierarchical animals. We are always assessing each other in terms of alpha and beta. Who's stronger than me? Who's dominant over me? Who can I dominate? We're always doing it. It's why guys like to posture when they meet girls. They like to show how strong they are, like to prove how alpha they are. They wear nice clothes to demonstrate success, right? Because everybody wants to date the alpha, right? It's always about demonstration, right? It's a variable. It's not a constant. In other words, the criterion not always the same. If you're a wrestler, physical strength might be the standard. If you're a musician, talent might be the standard, right? So you might be an alpha in one scenario, not in another, right? That's why we have insecurity sometimes when we're out of our element sometimes. We've all had the experience where we're meeting somebody and we're nervous to meet them. You're not the alpha. We've all had the experience where we're meeting somebody and we can sense that they're nervous meeting us. You're the alpha, right? The reason we're hierarchical is because once we have assessed who our alphas are, we voluntarily step back and we allow our alphas to eat first. Alphas get first choice of meat and first choice of mate. There are benefits to being the king. People give you stuff. You get stuff for free. You get looked after. People carry your bags. They call you sir. They call you ma'am. It's good to be the king, right? That's why we vie for the king, because we get first choice of meat and mate. To this day, we are perfectly comfortable with giving advantages to those who outrank us in the hierarchy, right? Not a single person here has a problem with somebody more senior than you making more money than you. You might think they're an ass, but you're okay with the fact that they make more money. Nobody has a problem with somebody that outranks you getting a nicer office, better parking. Does not offend us at all. In fact, we almost expect it. Can you imagine if the President of the United States had to carry his own suitcases? We'd be like, what? He's the president. We can't get somebody to carry his bags? I will do it. It would be an honor. Right? When we admire our alphas, we're actually very happy to do menial labor for them. Check it out, carrying the president's bags, me. We'll actually go home and be like, you'll never believe what I did today. I carried luggage for the president, right? It matters in service to our leaders. We like to serve our leaders. However, it doesn't come free. It does not come free. As Lieutenant General Flynn of the United States Marine Corps, Academy grad, told me, the cost of leadership is self-interest. And he's right. You see, the group is not stupid. Yes, we gave our leader the first choice of meat, first choice of mate. They're better fed than we are. We gave our leader love and adoration and all the respect, and we held doors for them, and they feel their status rise, and they ooze with serotonin. We gave that to them. They're actually also naturally stronger, because we expect that when danger threatens the tribe, the person who's actually stronger, better fed, and more confident will rush towards the danger to protect us. That's the cost of leadership. That's why we gave you first choice of mate, because you might die young, and we want your genes in the gene pool. We're not stupid. This is the cost of leadership. It's your willingness to sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your comfort, sacrifice your perks when it matters for the good of your people. Leadership is not a rank. It is a choice. It is a responsibility to offer protection to those to the left and those to the right. There are some people who have positions of authority who are not leaders. And there are some positions that have no formal authority who are very much leaders. And we naturally will put the people at the top of the hierarchy who would be willing to sacrifice for us. This is why it is the law that if you win the Congressional Medal of Honor, a 4-star salutes you. Because the formal rank is secondary to your willingness to sacrifice for others. That's natural. This is why we're so viscerally offended by some of the bankers who pay themselves disproportionately high bonuses. It has nothing to do with the numbers. It has everything to do with their violation of the deep-seated social contract we have with each other and with our leaders. Because we know that not only were they okay watching their people get sacrificed so they could get their big bonus, sometimes they sacrificed their people so they could get the big bonuses. Record high layoffs. Right? That's what so viscerally offends us. They have actually violated the deep-seated social contract, the very anthropological definition of what it means to be a leader. What if I told you we're going to give a $150 million bonus to Nelson Mandela? Anybody got a problem with that? Nope. $250 million bonus to Mother Teresa. Got an issue with that? Nope. It's not the numbers. It's the social contract. The very definition of leadership is not your ability to get people to do things. It's not your ability to get people to do your bidding. The very definition of leadership is to offer safety and protection to those in your care so they feel so safe in the environment in which they live and work that they would voluntarily offer their blood, sweat, and tears to see your intent, your vision, and your goals advanced. They will volunteer to do that because they know that you would do it for them. That's the deal. And that's why it works well together. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is the feeling of love, friendship, loyalty, trust. It's all the warm and fuzzies. It's all the unicorns and rainbows. Right? When you sit on, it's like why it's fun to hang out with our friends. You can sit on a couch and watch TV for 3 hours and never exchange a word with each other. And when they leave, you'd be like, hey, thanks for coming. I had such a good time. You didn't do anything. You watched TV. Right? It's the company we keep with people we love. That's oxytocin. Right? It's that deep-seated bond of love and trust. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't go on one date and get married. It takes time. It builds up. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's slower, but it takes time and effort, and it's like a dance. Vulnerability, do things for people, pull back. You know, the organization does it for me, we do it for the organization. My boss does it for me, we do it for the boss. My colleagues do it for me, I do it for my colleagues. The other midshipmen do it for me, I do it for them. And it's this, and eventually, I mean, you know, I know from Paris Island, right? On the first day that they get there and they're all standing on the yellow footprints, right? They ain't thinking about anybody else but themselves. That's it. Solo, me. And the first thing their DI will say to them, the first words they will hear yelled at them are, from this day on, the words I, me, my are no longer in your vocabulary. They will be replaced by we, together, and us. Now, they're not listening, but that is what will happen. And for the first 2 weeks or so of boot camp, those young recruits care about one thing and one thing only: looking good. Proving to the DI that I deserve to be here. I'm good enough to be a Marine. But the Marines keep putting them in situations that they will fail if they try and do things by themselves. Here are steps. They're 12 feet apart. You have to climb to the top. Good luck. There's a reason it's called the confidence course. It's because they're working to build up their individual confidence. The Marines know that people will not serve the team, will not serve the group until they believe in their own ability. They know that. I mean, think about it. There's only a finite number of people personalities that exist in the world. You can form your own team. Here, you can choose. Here's option 1, somebody who does not believe in their own ability. Option 2, somebody who does believe in their own ability but thinks they're better than everyone else. Option 3, someone who does believe in their ability but does not think they're better than everyone else. Who do you want on your team? Such an obvious question. It's stupid. We want the person who believes in themselves and doesn't think they're better than everybody else. Okay, how are you going to do that? You have to train that. You have to train confidence. Like parents try and teach their kids to be confident. We put them in situations where they can do more than they thought they could do, but they couldn't do it without each other. Marines think they're the best. Oh my God, they don't stop talking about it. But they don't think they're better than other Marines. That's what makes it work, right? That's what makes it work. Oxytocin is that love, is that trust that we can rely on each other. There are many ways you can get oxytocin. One is shared adversity, shared hardship. Think about your best day at work. Think about your best day you've ever had. It's not the time where everything went smoothly, came in under budget, and finished on time, and you completed the mission. Huge success. That sounds like it should be your best day, but it's not. Your best days are when everything went wrong, you're up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and even though it wasn't a success, for some reason you have really fond memories of it. It's because of the shared adversity and the relationships you remember. Nobody wants to go to combat, but people come back from deployment and they talk about with fondness. You know, they didn't enjoy it, but how much they appreciated it. And it's the bonds that they form. Suicides in the military. You know, slight majority of the suicides in the military are people who do not get deployed. It's not combat deployment. It's people who stay home where all of their friends go and form the relationships and have the shared adversity, and they're left back by themselves, lonely. It makes us feel uneasy, right? These weird things that start to happen. We're these social animals. Shared adversity releases oxytocin. Another thing that releases oxytocin, human contact. The more people love each other, the more they touch each other, right? High fives, you know, athletes slap each other, like we hug the people we love, we hold hands, we give each other oxytocin. When we meet somebody as a sign of respect, what do? We shake hands, we touch. Lots of touching, right? That's why you have to hold children. The more you hold children, they've done a wonderful study that children who don't get touched, I think the number is 32 times a day, are more likely to grow up to be criminals. That's because when we have oxytocin in our bodies, oxytocin gives us the capacity for empathy. Oxytocin gives us the capacity for respect and love. And if you lack those things, if you don't have oxytocin in your system, you become unempathetic and you become incredibly selfish. The more oxytocin we have in our bodies, it also reduces our susceptibility to addiction. So the less oxytocin you have, the more addictive personality you have. It's love. It's trust. Here's another way you get oxytocin. Acts of kindness. Acts of human generosity. An act of human generosity is defined as giving of your time and energy with no expectation of anything in return. Money doesn't work. If I told you that on my way here, before I came here, I went online and I gave $500 to charity, what would you think of me? You'd be like, good for you, right? But if I told you that last Saturday I gave up half a day and I went and painted schools in the inner city, then what'd you think of me? You'd be like, nice, cool, I should do more, right? We as human animals put a premium on those who are willing to spend a non-redeemable commodity, time, energy, right? We've all sat in meetings or watched movies and thought to ourselves, I will never get this time back. Some of you are sitting right here, right now going, I will never get this time back. I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you, right? Money you can make back, time and energy you do not. And so we as human animals that are constantly looking to see and learn if we can trust people, if they're willing to give to us, will give more trust to those who are willing to give their non-redeemable commodity to us. This is why email doesn't work, right? If I come to your house for dinner, you make me a lovely dinner. The next day I send you a wonderful email. Thank you, sir. What an amazing host you are. Or 3 days later, you receive a handwritten note from me with the exact same words. Which one makes you feel better? Handwritten note. Same words, same intention, same desire. The difference is, you know, it took me a little more time and a little more energy for the note, and it It makes you feel better. Email doesn't work. It's too easy. Email is great for the exchange of information. Email is great. What time's the meeting? 4 o'clock. Here's the PowerPoint you asked for. Here it is. It is terrible to tell people what you think of their ideas. It is terrible to tell them what your ideas are. It is terrible to criticize people. It is terrible to compliment people. These are emotional things. These are trust-building mechanisms, and they do not work in email. Get up and walk over and tell them. Call them. Hey, I got your email. I just want to tell you what I thought of your idea. Sure. You know? It's why eyeball leadership matters. It's why the senior officer who goes to the front lines simply to say hi to everybody. Hey, thanks for your doing. Hey, nice to meet you. Hey, how are you? The reason it matters is because everybody on the front lines know that that person is really, really busy and has better things to do in their mind. And that they would get on a plane, travel for 9.5 hours, expose themselves to physical danger, and walk around simply to say hi to us means they care. Huge impact in how we feel about ourselves and the organization with the knowledge that our leaders would sacrifice their time and energy for us. I was walking down the streets of New York, and a person in front of me, their backpack open and a bunch of paper spilled out. Didn't think much of it. I bent down, gathered up the papers, handed them back, pointed out that his bag had opened up. I did a small act of generosity. I got a small burst of oxytocin. It felt good, felt nice. The person on the receiving end of the generosity also gets a burst of oxytocin. Thank you, he said. He felt good. It's nice when somebody does something nice for us. Thanks, right? Both get a burst of oxytocin, right? Get to the end of the block, true story, get to the end of the block, and I'm standing waiting to cross the street, and a guy standing in front of me turns around and says, I saw what you did back there. That was really cool. As it turns out, simply witnessing an act of generosity releases oxytocin. The human body is trying desperately to get us to look after each other. And so it rewards us with these immense feelings of positivity and fulfillment and joy when we do nice things for each other, when others do nice things for us, and when we witness others doing things. Because the more oxytocin we have in our systems, the more generous we become, the more empathetic we become, the healthier we are. Oxytocin actually boosts your immune system. People in relationships live longer than single people. Happy people live longer than unhappy people, right? It actually makes us better problem solvers. It opens up our brains. Biologically, I'm talking real biology here, right? The more oxytocin you have in your system, the better you are at problem solving. In other words, a team of people who care about each other can much better solve a difficult problem than teams of people who don't care about each other. This is the power of this stuff. The human body is trying so hard to get us to look after each other. You want to be a leader, you have a choice. You can stab your way up the knives in someone's back and achieve authority. And you will enjoy all the perks afforded to you. And in times of stress, no one will come to your aid. People will do as you say because they think they're required to, but they will not give you their all, they will give you the minimum because they don't trust you. Or you could be willing to sacrifice your own comfort, your own perks, when it matters, so that others may gain, and you will earn their trust, their loyalty, and their love. If someone is struggling with their studying, and you are also studying, what is the choice you make? Do you get up from your desk and you work with them until the wee hours of the morning until they get it? Maybe even sacrificing your ability to study and maybe sacrificing your own grade. That has significant implications in your career. It absolutely will. If you don't make the grade, that'll hurt. But those are the steps it takes to become a leader. Leadership is a choice. That's all it is. That's all it is. The more you offer this to others, the more they offer it back. Again, you've heard the stories. You've met the people. You meet people who have sacrificed themselves so that others may gain. They risked their lives. Dakota Meyer, who won the Congressional Medal of Honor, the president asked him, "Did you think you were going to die?" To which he replies to the president, "No, sir, I knew I was going to die." Nobody runs into combat, forgotten country. It just doesn't exist. They do it for the person to the left of them, and they do it for the person to the right of them. And they do it, and if you ask anybody who did these things, why did you do it? They all say the same thing, because they would have done it for me. That's called leadership. The shootings that just had in Kenya in the mall, there was a photographer inside the mall who captured the scene, which we never get to see. We usually see the aftermath. And there's one photograph which I want you to look up, and if you can, print it out and hang it on your wall inside your room. Go to NewYorkTimes.com and just look up the photograph of the photograph from the Kenya shooting, from that terrorist attack. And there is a photograph that haunts me and inspires me every time I see it. It is a mother lying on top of her child. Okay? So at the sound of gunfire, at the sound of danger, it is the instinct, no pros and cons weighed, no thought to what may happen to her. It is the instinct of the mother to throw herself on top of her child. That is a picture of leadership. That is the personification of leadership. If you want to know what it takes to be a leader, look at that picture every single morning and think to yourself, would I, without even thinking about it, throw myself on top of my people? Intellectually, we all think we would throw ourselves on top of the grenade, right? But it's not a question of whether you think you would or wouldn't when the grenade is thrown. The question is, do others believe you would when it was thrown? And the question is, on a daily basis, do I believe that you would do that? Because if I don't, my guard goes up and I will protect myself from you. If I do, my guard goes down and I will do whatever it takes to see that your vision and your intent is followed. And I will do so with pride. And I want to make you proud because of the sacrifice you gave to me.